Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Political. My name's Connor Allen, and I'm here with Ryan Smith.
Hello,
Ryan. There he is. And today we have another exciting episode of Political for you. Before we do begin, guys, please do check out our social media channels and do remember to subscribe if you can. It helps us out a lot. But today we have for you Pelosi begging Joe Biden not to engage Donald Trump in debates. What do you think of this, Ryan?
I wouldn't say she is if it would be fair, she's not overtly begging, but she is desperate.
Ordering.
Yeah, I think she's desperate for him to skip the debates.
I mean, wouldn't you, if you were a Democrat and you had to put Sleepy Joe against Donald?
It's like if you have a grandparent, in a care home or whatever, you're not going to go and you can't go and say to them, Grandpa, you're demented. You have. So that's the situation that with Joe. They've got to kind of give him hints. It's like, Joe, don't do the debates. Don't do the debates. But they can't go up to him and say, Joe, you're senile. You can't do them, right? So
I mean, okay. Let's be fair. He isn't senile. He is a respectable politician. He's been in politics for many years. He knows how to make a speech. Do you think that's affected him though? Because he's done this great speech at the end of the DNC. Do you think it's buoyed his confidence a bit too much?
Yeah, actually, that might be it. I think that's probably a fair point. He seems adamant. He's not. Biden is the only one that's really kind of sticking to the line on this one now and saying, yeah, I'm gonna do the debates. I'm gonna go. I'm not afraid to do them. Blah blah blah. All this. We're committed to doing the debates. It's everyone else. It's the news. It's the media, the left wing media. But now this is a bit of a bombshell that Nancy Pelosi is saying this as well. I think because I don't know if this is her saying this kind of from the perspective of the Democratic Party, or if this is Joe Biden's campaign saying to Pelosi, you need to lay the seeds, lay the foundation for us to skip the debates. Because, come at an angle that they can where they've gone, oh, well, we've been advised not to do it, sort of thing. So, I don't know. I mean, talking about what she actually said, she's saying, I don't think there should be any debates. I do not think that the President of the United States has comported himself in a way that has any association with truth, evidence, data, and facts. I wouldn't.
Can we begin with, just before you go on, can we begin with, I don't think there should be any debates. Now, doesn't that just seem a bit wrong in a democracy? There should be no debates.
I think it is. I think, well, obviously not. This is a model I think is mostly, you mostly associate with the States. They don't really do this that much in a lot of other countries. But I guess they don't, the presidency is not as important as it is in America. Isn't as important in other countries as it is in America. Most of the time we're dealing with, parliaments who then themselves elect a leader, and presidents tend to be quite titular. So
absolutely,
the president in America holds a considerable amount of power, and their character is important. Not just their policy, but their character is important because they truly are a representation, or truly are a representative, I should say, for the people of America, particularly when it comes to foreign policy. So you would expect the President of the United States to regularly be having conversations with other world leaders.
Absolutely. The President of the United States is the most public figure on planet Earth. He should be expected to be held to account by literally everybody possible. Literally everybody should be questioning them. Literally everyone should be putting views to them. And then this person should have the mental capacity to come back. And if they are the person who is fit to be president, they'll smash all the arguments out of the park and they'll have an answer for everything.
Right, exactly.
I just don't get it. When Pelosi says, I don't think there should be any debates, what I hear is, I don't think there should be any questioning of Biden. Because let's face it, the onus of the debates is going to be on Biden, isn't it? It's not going to be on Trump. Trump's going to come out of this. He's going to become attacking. He's going to be on the offensive. He's going to be attacking Joe. It's not necessarily Joe who's going to be attacking Trump. We've heard it all before.
Well, I don't. He's the sitting president, so he should be on the defensive, but being the sort of maneuverer that he is, he's very good at twisting things and turning things back on the other person.
You see this right now with the protests, right? Because both candidates have actually presented, the two visions. Donald Trump says that in Joe Biden's America, the rioting and the protests, this is what you'll see every day. And Joe Biden says, well, this is Donald Trump's America, actually. But it's the sitting president, but he's taken that and he's turned it into an attack point against the Democrats.
Yeah, and actually he's done so quite convincingly, because when people think about the protests or when they think about the violent sides of the protests and to the degree of which they are violent, people will debate now to the end of the earth. But when it actually comes to the violence itself, Trump has sort of attached that now to the Democratic Party and said, yeah, well, this is and the reason is, in the same way he did this in 2016, he would just constantly attack Clinton, and it almost seemed like she was just denying things all the time rather than actually trying to pin her own attacks on Trump. And this is the same thing now when it comes to the rioting. You're right. You would think a normal circumstance, you've got rioting in your country when you're the president, you explain yourself, right? Why is that happening? What are you going to do about it? But he's shaped the conversation that he's the one that is trying to do something about it, even though he is the president, but it's the Democrats that are stopping him from doing it. And I mean, that is actually the case, but you would think it'd be hard to convince people of that, but I think he's done a really good job of convincing people of that. So when Biden comes out and he says, oh, this is happening in Trump's presidency, I don't really think, people look at that and think with any seriousness and really believe what he's saying there, or can go along with the narrative, because it's clear to see that Trump has been the one that wants to stamp down on the rioting and the violence, and he's been hampered from doing so.
Absolutely, and I mean, we are going off track a bit. Yeah. But just to kind of illustrate the point, Biden is playing catch up now, and whereas we done 2 weeks ago full throttle support for Black Lives Matter and the violent protests, whereas now he's putting out Twitter videos where he deplores the violence. You have people going on. Was it Fox News or CNN where they were saying we need to stop the riots because it's showing up in the polls?
Yeah, it's showing up in focus groups. That was Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo. And that's all they care. I mean, we're going to go on about it now. We're going to go off on a tangent because this is about the debates.
Well, no. Okay, let's finish it up because I think it has to be said, when you have one party who's willing to let small businesses burn, violence in the street, it's led to people losing their lives. The only reason to stop this is because polls are unfavourable to them. That sits uneasy with me.
Oh, it does, but I think that is the true nature of the Democratic Party, and I think, to be honest, it's the true nature of the Republican Party. But people don't think of Trump in that same way. I think they
consider Trump to be they know who he is, right? And they know he comes warts and all. And people know that Trump isn't perfect. And people accept he isn't perfect. And they accept that he's coarse and brash. And he's very, pig-headed about things. You can make a choice on that. At least he doesn't try to hide it.
They're happy to accept his foibles because of the things that he stands for. And listen, some people might not believe that. To me, that's what I believe. That's what I see in Trump. I see someone that's a voice for people when he got voted in, I was very happy about it because I was happy to see a country as politically corrupt as America vote in a president who has done so basically off the back of just running a really good campaign, not because they had a load of special interests.
And that's what's important, isn't it?
Who aided them along the way.
The campaign is so important because Donald Trump is an amazing campaigner and nobody disputes that. And this is why the Democrats don't want to debate him. Because you put Sleepy Joe against Donald in a debate, Donald's going to win. And you can be as far left as you want. You can be as radical as you like. Everybody knows that's true.
So,
and Nancy knows it's true.
Yeah, she does know that's true. The question is, does Biden know that's true? Because, like I say, I don't know whether this is a case of, Biden being too proud to admit it to himself. So he's like, yeah, of course I'm going to do debates. And the Democrats are scared. And so now they're trying to sort of find a way that they can dodge them. Because just the way that she words this, she was saying, it comes later on.
Well, what do you think of this second part where she says, I do not think the President of the United States has comported himself in a way that anybody has any association with truth, evidence, data, and facts? What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's not a reason to not do the debates. That's a reason to do the debates. Because if I'm in a debate and my opponent is a serial liar, then great. I don't even have to argue any sort of philosophical, political point. I can just call them out on their lies.
It's what you dream of, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
It's the actual dream.
Exactly, right? If this is the truth, then why can't Biden, they're calling for fact checkers. Biden is the fact checker. He's supposed to be the guy that calls them out. That's the whole point of the debate. But the problem is that when we're talking about this, when we're talking about fact checking, we know a lot of these things that will supposedly be fact checked are opinionated matters. They're not something that if you're talking about hard cold statistics or quantitative data, then fine. But when you look at these fact checker websites and all this, and there's so many of them, and they were doing all the fact checking on the RNC and all this. Vast majority, at least half anyway, of those fact checking sites are full of fact checks that are incredibly opinionated. They're not fact checking at all. They're just offering a different opinion.
I disagree slightly because I think some of them, a lot of the nuance of the question is lost when you kind of take it and you start analysing it, right? So I'll give you the example of, so Trump said recently that he's kept every single campaign promise. And then the fact checkers came out and said, no, actually, it's just about half of promises that he's kept.
Yeah.
But I mean, first of all, at what point do you consider a campaign promise met? Like, so for the border wall, for example, okay, he hasn't built the border wall, but there are sections that have been built. He has strengthened border security, and he has largely attempted, with varying degrees of success, to stop immigration coming through. So the spirit of the objective is achieved, if not the precise wording on the campaign trail. So, you've got to be a bit careful with these things too, and you can't be... There is no right and wrong answer to it, is there?
Well, yeah, and this is the issue with fact checking. I understand having what you would, call a reliable journalistic source where you can go to verify information that you've heard through, Facebook or whatever, because obviously anyone could create a post, make up a bunch of stuff, it goes viral, and that now becomes an opinion in public discourse when it's not true, evidently. So I understand that, and that's where fact checkers are useful. And if you have a sort of a truly impartial source to do that, then that's great. But like you say, most of these things, there's a lot of context surrounding them. There's a lot of nuance. And people are perfectly capable. At the debates?
No, I mean a fact. Sorry, a fact checker should be there. So if President Trump says crime has gone down 20% and it's actually gone down 15%, that the fact checker should be flagging that up, right? Because that is a clear.
But I mean, even that is not a simple.
Oh no, of course, but like to give a generic thing off my head.
Yeah, because like you could say that, and then you could say, "Oh well, no, I was talking about this particular crime or crime in this area or whatever or something like that." Which obviously is probably a good thing because then it's described more the actual specific thing that he's talking about. But this is a completely the point is that these things are completely normal things that you hear from politicians and that we've always heard from politicians. They will colour the truth to favour them and make it seem like they're doing a better job than that. That's obviously what they're going to do. All politicians do that. Very rarely does a politician come up and say, well, yeah, here are all the things that I just categorically got wrong. Oh, and I just really want to bring your attention all of this stuff that happened that really doesn't paint, a great picture in terms of the job that I did. They'll take something that's negative and they'll try and spin it into a positive. That's the point. That's the whole point of the debates, really, in many ways. My issue is that they're trying to make it seem like Trump is just some kind of like is unlike any other president that there has ever been in terms of this, and we have to have the fact checker, and without the fact checker, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. It's just very illogical, the argument that they're making.
If you advance in the article a bit, I mean, Pelosi goes on to say, I wouldn't legitimize a conversation with him nor a debate in terms of the president of the United States. You wouldn't speak to the president of the United States?
Yeah. And
is she real? Or
legitimize a conversation. He's already the president. We're not talking about a candidate. We're not talking about someone that's running in the primaries. I understand maybe if this was the Democratic Party and you had some fringe person, with real radical views, right, that was running for the Democrats, and they were like, no, we're not going to bring them on stage and legitimize their arguments, make it seem like they've got more of support than they do by bringing them on stage with these people, when in fact, actually, it's just, that doesn't really, I understand that, but we're talking about the sitting president. And saying that you're not going to legitimize the sitting president by having a debate with them. They've already been legitimized.
Right. I think you're exactly right there. And it just betrays this kind of, and I mean, it's coming from Pelosi, so we kind of expect this, but this kind of radical leftist perspective that anybody who disagrees with them is morally wrong and should be delegitimized and should be deplatformed and cancelled and these sorts of things. These people, they see the world not in shades of grey, but they see, them versus the rest. And if you're not with them, then you are a moral evil in the world and you don't deserve a platform. You don't deserve to be debated because they have the moral right to be in the office of presidency. And that's going to lose them votes. That's what happened last time in 2016. It's going to happen again.
Oh, yeah, because people will absolutely see right through this. I honestly don't think that I don't think Biden can skip the debates. I don't think he can turn up to the debates. But this is what happens when you have a terrible candidate.
Well, let's be fair to Biden. Biden does want to go out and do the debate.
Well, he says he wants to right now, but to be fair to him, he said when he was asked about this, he said, "I'm going to debate him. I'm going to be the fact checker on the floor while I'm debating him," which is the perfect answer from anyone who wants to have an ounce of respect for the guy, because that's exactly what everyone would have been thinking when Pelosi said, "Oh, Trump just," to paraphrase, "Oh, Trump just lies so much that we can't possibly debate him." It's like, no, that is why you debate him. You call him out on his lies if that's what he's doing. So I think I give credit to Biden on this one. He's actually given the right answer, or his team has, and he's memorized it. But
I respect him more.
Yeah, I respect him more for this. But my concern is that this is all just a show. and this has been orchestrated, and Pelosi has deliberately said this now to, like I say, kind of lay the foundations for an argument for why they're not going to do the debates as we get closer towards them.
Well, listen, I think if the Democrats do skip a debate, it's going to be disastrous for them. Theresa May did it in the 2017 elections. Was it 2017? I can't remember.
I don't really know because
she got absolutely lanced for it. She plummeted in the polls. If you do want to be president, if you do want to take the highest office in the land, you should really be putting yourself out there for public scrutiny, letting the public see you for who you are. And you don't really get to deny them that. It's not your place to deny them that. And I think with Joe Biden, I mean, he's been in Congress since, the 2nd century BC. So I think he has enough respect for the system to appreciate that. But the cabal of kind of plotting leftists around him, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the other thing as well, they were talking about, I think it was Brad Parscale, who he was a campaign manager for Trump, and then I think he's gone, and then he was, effectively demoted, and now he's like the online campaign manager or whatever. But I very vividly remember seeing Brad Parscale on, she probably must have been Fox News or whatever. He was talking about the debates, and he was saying how they want to add another debate than the usual 3, and they want to do one earlier. And I think the rationale behind that makes sense to me. Because of the pandemic, there are a lot of states that obviously, as we talked about a couple of videos back, that are trying to push and go ahead with this mass universal mail-in voting.
And some of that has to take place earlier.
Yeah, so there's going to be a considerable amount more of earlier voting than usual. So because there's going to be so much early voting, doesn't it make sense to have a debate earlier and one that starts before any of the early voting starts?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Is it not so 2020 that we're actually debating whether people voting before they've heard the candidates is a good thing or not?
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes sense, doesn't it? It just, if you take a step, if you truly believe in democracy and you truly believe in debating, and you agree that you might sometimes be wrong, or that somebody else just might be more popular than you, you accept these things without question. And we just seem to have lost all capacity for that.
I think the point is that the Democrats know, or listen, they believe that they're ahead in the polls. They believe that they've got this one in the bag again. And they believe they think they've only got something to lose by Biden going in the debates, and nothing to gain. And they probably presume that he's going to have a poor performance, because I don't think he performed particularly well in the primaries. He's just he's ran for president so many times now. I just think he sort of got lucky this time, and didn't have a whole host of other great candidates around him. The only ones that were there that were somewhat popular were the far left candidates like Sanders and Warren. So they had to rally behind someone that they consider a moderate, and obviously Biden just happened to be the guy that was there.
Man in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So obviously they don't have a lot of faith in their candidate, but like you say, the man wants to be president of the United States. He wants to be the leader of the free world. He has to face scrutiny. This includes the debates, and it includes going out and giving media interviews. And the only argument I ever see for why Biden shouldn't be going out and giving media interviews is because he's ahead of the poll in the polls, so he doesn't need to do it. And like you said, that's what happened with Theresa May and the Conservatives a few years ago. They just thought they had it in the bag. They got arrogant. Maybe that will happen again.
This happens. You find these people very often on the left wing, and they think that people don't deserve to have the full picture. The end justifies the means, and the moral good of getting a leftist candidate in overrides everything else. And they assume that everybody just kind of accepts it and they won't question it. But people do question it. And the American people aren't as stupid as they think they are. They're going to see right through it. If Biden dodges it, they're going to see right through it. And let's face it as well, I just kind of want to end on this point. If you can't go up on stage against Donald Trump, you are not going to be able to walk into a room with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and get your point across, are you?
No, exactly. And I think that just going back to what we said, further emphasizes the point that if there was any job in the world where you need to be able to go and debate and face scrutiny, this is the job. So to dodge the debates, it's just so cowardly. I think everyone will see through it. The question is, though, will it be the best of two evils? Because I don't think he's going to perform particularly well in the debates either.
Well, we'll see, won't we? Because we don't. I mean, I guess we will have to see, because Biden has committed to doing them. Pelosi and the Wranglers are desperately trying to pull him back. But we're just going to have to see.
We will see. I absolutely can't wait. The first one now is not too far away. It's about, I think, a month away at this point, September. So
tune into Political. We'll be covering it. We're talking about it and ranting on about it.